Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I am Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and we are focusing on our Champions in Industries Awards nominees. So today I have in studio with me Scott Harry. He is with Crown Castle.
Hey.
He is the Government Relations Manager over the Rocky Mountain region, but that mostly focuses on Colorado and Utah, correct?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Wonderful. And so, Scott, you and Crown Castle have been nominated in the technology category, and you're going up some big dogs here. We have AT&T in that category as well as Zio Group, and we wish all of you the best of luck, but thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Absolutely, and we're glad to have you. And again, for our audience out there, this awards luncheon is going to be taking place Monday, December 3rd at the Cable Center at 11 a.m. Scott will be there. You can get a chance to meet him and learn all about Crown Castle that we don't cover today.
Yep.
Yeah, so Scott, you have been on the show with us before.
Yeah, one other time.
Yeah, and it was a great show, and we got a really, really good overview of exactly what Crown Castle does. But I'm going to go ahead and have you do another little brief intro about exactly what they get into and everything that Crown Castle is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have an office here in Denver and an office in Houston and Irvine, and then our main office is in Pittsburgh. Crown Castle is basically a shared communications infrastructure company. So the products that we put out there are shared by anybody who needs to use them as a communications piece of infrastructure. So the main carriers that you are all aware of, T-Mobile, Sprint, AT&T and Verizon, they all use our infrastructure. We also have fiber, and that fiber infrastructure is used by whoever needs the fiber at the time, and we use that fiber mostly to support our small cell infrastructure. But anybody who needs fiber, will provide that fiber to them. So we're starting a whole new business line right now just in fiber. And so we'll be competing directly with Zayo and CenturyLink in town here too, and providing lit fiber to enterprise.
So I think fiber is probably one that people are most familiar with at this point in time, right? Rather than the small cell, the small cell that you have.
Yeah, you said soft cell last time.
So I did say soft cell. I thought about that actually earlier, and then I had to sing the song, of course.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they're all unfamiliar terms. I think most people are familiar with the large towers.
Yes.
And those towers, we have about 40,000 of those across the U.S. And right now, those towers aren't powerful enough to run the network the way that the carriers need it to run. So if you're streaming Netflix on your iPad and you're going off of the normal network, it's not going to work. You're going to have a lot of circles in the screen, and it's going to be very slow.
Right.
And so now the carriers are infilling with those small cell sites in between, and those are all fiber based, and so they have a much higher capacity and throughput for data.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I like the way that works, and less buffering overall, right?
Yes.
Is that's where we're aiming
we want
to
to move to less buffering.
Yeah. But this plays a huge role, not just in your Netflix, right? This is great for schools and first responders, right? Do you mind going in a little bit of detail about that?
Yeah, these networks that we're putting up today are good for the community overall. And so it's not just about streaming Netflix, like you said. It's not just about being able to experience your web faster. We're looking at helping out first responders. A first responder needs to rely on their cell phone. I'm showing my age there. It's not a telephone. And so first responders need to be able to connect when they're at an emergency, and sometimes they aren't able to connect over their two-way radios or whatever communications they have. And so many firefighters and police would tell you that they use their cell phones to call in if they can't get through.
Yeah.
So this infrastructure is right there for them. Another way, and there are so many applications we can talk about with safety and traffic and those sorts of things. But one of the things we mentioned last time we were here is that police officers can wear sensors all over their body that can go back to their station. And so if the police officer draws his weapon, that can signal back to the station. or if they're have an increased heart rate or things like that. These are all applications that run over the wireless networks, and you have to have really good throughput and data so that it's live time, so that if somebody draws their weapon, if a police officer draws their weapon, they can know that they need to either help that police officer out or they have to figure out what the next step is. And sometimes the officer won't be able to call in to let them know. So that's one way. Recently, we've been working with CDOT on a lot of canyon deployments.
Ooh.
And CDOT is looking at putting sensors all throughout, up and down I-70 and in some of the other canyons, that will really read what traffic is doing, more than just looking at it on a camera and saying, well, there's traffic here, we're all backed up, or there's an accident down there. Sensors like if a car turns over, that sensor will actually feed data to the network. And so there's a sensor in there that if the car's upside down, it can tell the sensors and read directly back to CDOT or first responders that the car's upside down.
Wow.
Or if the bumpers crunch, there's a sensor there that can provide that same information. Or sensors that are scanning in front of the car. So if there are animals coming across the road, it can tell how many animals, what kind of animal, and then it can send an information directly back to the network and put it up on a billboard, and it says, there are 5 elk up at mile marker 65, be aware.
That's insane.
And that wasn't seen from a camera.
Time.
And so that's real time, and it happens right away. And so it'll greatly increase the first responders' time to get to an accident or deal with any kind of situation. So
that's amazing.
I know, and that's all off of this kind of infrastructure that we're installing.
Yeah, absolutely. And how has working with CDOT been for you guys?
It's fine. Yeah. CDOT's a great organization to work with. I mean, it's a big organization. There's some bureaucracy there, but we have found them to be extremely helpful and understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. And we've worked with them in the Clear Creek Canyon and Highway 6 from Golden all the way up to the casinos. That's our infrastructure that's placed throughout that canyon. And CDOT has cameras on our infrastructure, and they're welcome to use as much fiber as they need. And then we have kind of a trading agreement with them where we have value for value trades that we do that really helps the public.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like that it's private partnership and government working together to bring the best products for their people.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's your wheelhouse, right? As the government relations manager.
That's right. And CDOT, it's not their expertise to put up wireless infrastructure. It's their expertise to monitor traffic and figure out how to get the roads working the right way. And so we can help them do that with this infrastructure that is also valuable to private industry. So, for instance, in that Clear Creek Canyon build, we have AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile all on that system.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so now people can drive up that road, and if they have an emergency, they can dial 911 and be able to get out with their cell phones.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How amazing. So we've talked first responders, we've talked CDOT. You guys are also really great, not just businesses and organizations, but venues. Let's talk a little bit about venues and what you provide there, because that to me, I think, was the most interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of all of the aspects that you take care of.
So venues, as you're aware, they only get a lot of traffic at certain times.
Right.
So at a football game or at a baseball game, that's when hundreds of thousands of people are trying to stream video or take a picture and send it, or everybody's on their phones doing something.
My Insta story needs to be updated instantly.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be real time. That's what it's there for, right? So the venues that we work in have what's called a distributed antenna system, or a DAS system. So it's a little different than small cell, a little different than the macro sites, but it's all fiber based. And so what it basically does is it extends the antenna system, or the system that everybody's using. It extends that throughout the stadium. So if you have 100,000 people all using it at once, one site in the middle wouldn't be able to take that kind of capacity. So we distribute those antennas all around the stadium, and then it goes back to a central radio house below the stadium. And so that means everybody can use it. And at times like the Super Bowl, we were a part of that build. And when the Pope came to visit, we were a part of a DAS system for that. And so when we have large venues or we're expecting something to come in, and we're going to talk about Vail here. That system that we built in Vail was precisely for that reason. The Alpine Ski Championship was happening, and so we had to get a lot of signal and a lot of coverage, robust coverage, for a single event.
Right.
So,
and it's one of those things that that the layperson myself wouldn't think about until they don't have it.
Right.
Right? I'm not going into an event thinking, oh, I won't be able to take pictures or send a an awesome Snapchat, right? I don't think about that until I get there and I can't do it.
Yeah. Then you're frustrated.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So we're trying to cut that off. Cut that off at the pass.
The unsung hero here on that.
Yeah,
I would say.
That's a good way to think of us.
Yeah,
The unsung
exactly.
hero. Some people say we're the largest company that we've never heard of. So we do a lot of behind the scenes work that nobody really understands. But we're trying to get our name out there and help people understand how we affect their daily lives.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and we're glad to be a part of that for you. Glad to help you deliver that message.
Yeah, Cobert's great.
Yes. And so let's go ahead and get into why exactly you were nominated. And you briefly mentioned it, this Vail, Colorado, the Alpine World Ski Championships, right? And so that is a huge event that happens in Vail. And Vail is one of, I would say, if not the most, definitely among the top 5 most beautiful places in Colorado to visit.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
So there's a lot of natural infrastructure that you guys had to come up against.
Yes.
With getting some of these in. So
yes.
I'm going to let you take your story here and tell us all about it.
Yeah, the town of Vail was looking forward to the Alpine Ski Championship in 2016. And so, or was it 2016 or 2015?
2015.
2015.
Yes.
And so they came to us because they knew that we were working in infrastructure and we could probably help them understand what they needed to build out there. We have a couple of sites around the town of Vail, the macro sites, so we already had a relationship with them. And we started working with them hand in hand. The town of Vail, first responders there, and our RF teams all got together and we figured out a system that would cover the entire East and West Village, and then also up in throughout the kind of the main area at the base of the mountain where all of the skiers would come down and the crowds would kind of form around that base area. And we set up a system that covers that entire area and blankets it with really good 4G coverage. Also, we were able to provide the town of Vail with a Wi-Fi system as well. So we didn't actually provide the Wi-Fi antennas and all of that, but they used all of our infrastructure to put up their Wi-Fi system. So there's also kind of a public Wi-Fi system there that people can take advantage of. Yeah.
Not every city has that, so it's exciting when you come across one that does.
Exactly.
And it's free, but
yes.
That's exciting that the city can provide that.
Yeah, and we came up with antennas that really blend with the village. I think if you ask the average person walking around the East and West Village, they would say they don't notice them at all. If you're in one of the main parking structures above the village, there's a couple of sites on each of those, and they're tucked in between trees, and we really took a lot of time to figure out where we could place the sites so that they would have the least visual impact possible.
Right, because I think when a lot of people think about 4G and Wi-Fi and things like that, they do think about those large tower infrastructures that we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah.
And they're not the cutest,
No.
but they are probably the most efficient design that they could have, I would imagine. So that's cool that you work together with everyone to be able to provide not only wonderful service, but also service that isn't an eyesore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially for people coming to watch this event, the Alpine World Ski Championships in 2015. Because when you go to some place like that, you want to be in nature. Yeah,
you don't want to be looking at communications infrastructure, although you see a lot of infrastructure anyway. So there are some power poles around Vail and obviously the ski lifts and all of this, there's a lot of infrastructure around, but we tried as hard as we could to make sure that this was as stealthy as possible. So
yeah, exactly.
And we have 3 carriers on that system, so we didn't need to install 3 separate antenna locations for each one of them. They're each using the single antenna that's there.
That's awesome. So let's talk about the outcome of that project. That it went really well for you guys.
It did.
Yeah, so tell me all about it.
Sure. So once we got it up and running, we finished it in a record time. I think we were building sites within 5 months of just the conception of the project. So
I'm going to stop you there real quick.
Outrageous.
Okay, yeah. So typically, how long does that take then?
Oh, well, it depends on the type of structures that we're building. It depends on the permitting environment. We have to work with all the red tape. I would say in a normal world where we didn't have all of that cooperation all happening at once, it probably takes 12 to 18 months to put up, a new system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
sorry, I had to interrupt and go back. So 5 months, that is astounding.
So it was lightning speed, and then we got everything built before the actual event started. So it was a real win. The first responders were able to use the system quickly. I don't know if there were emergencies that happened around the actual event, but I know that the first responders appreciate being able to use their phone throughout the town. And I think before we put that system in, it was spotty in almost all of the entire village. I think there's only 1 or 2 sites in that whole area, and so people using their smartphones were really experiencing some problems. And now everybody has great coverage throughout the town.
That's wonderful. So you mentioned that you were able to do this in 5 months, and you were able to get up before the event happened. Clearly, you'd already had somewhat of a relationship with Vail at this time, and you'd had a few structures up. If I am a new town, not a new town, I shouldn't say a new town, but if I'm a town that's new into the territory of having a big event, a large event like this coming in, say I find out that the Pope's coming, when do I need to contact Crown Castle to say, hey, we don't have anything up yet.
Yeah.
We don't have a relationship with you guys, but we have an event coming up. We need your help.
Sure.
What time structure should I look at as somebody reaching out to you?
As much notice as possible.
Yes.
As much notice as possible. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, building these systems is not an easy task. You have to get fiber to each of the sites. You have to order the materials. You have to have those materials fabricated and made in the way that you need them to be made. You have to go through all of the permitting, and a lot of times there are legal agreements that have to be put together. So we have to have at least 8 to 10 months to ramp up. And the best way, I think the underlying question is, how can we get these kinds of systems into our towns, and what do we need to make that happen? And I met recently with the Colorado Association of Ski Towns, and I was able to present some material to them, and they all know about Vail, all of the ski towns do, and they want to have a good, robust system in their town and be technologically advanced and all of that. And the best way to do that is to just figure out how to cut the red tape out so that we can build the system in a way that makes sense and is quick. And then also insist on partnership. And if you're a town that really wants to have that infrastructure in place, you have to compromise a little bit, because everybody's going to see the sites. It's a wireless system, so the sites have to be in the air, and the signal has to be able to reach the end user. And so there is going to be an element that has a visual impact, but how can we take that visual impact and reduce it as much as possible, and screen the site, or paint the site in some different way, or maybe put it behind a tree over here, or in between buildings over here. We can try and figure out how to set the system up in a way that is kind of lessens the visual impact.
Yeah.
But it takes understanding and partnership. On both sides, absolutely.
I would absolutely imagine, and I like your comment there. Cut out red tape as much as possible. So that definitely means getting your town hall meetings together, right?
Yeah.
And saying this is what we need to do, and so you're suggesting doing that before we give you a call, then?
Absolutely,
okay.
and I mean, we can help.
I'm sure you have great arguments, right? Yeah, you have several products.
Sure. Yeah, and so if a town manager wants to explore what are the options, what can we do to get some of these systems in our town, we can definitely meet and help to kind of clear up any of the misunderstandings about what the infrastructure looks like, how it works, what the timelines are to build it, and all of those sorts of things. So, we definitely are able to help in that planning phase as well.
Yeah.
So.
What are some of the challenges that you've seen from town to town? I'm assuming there are a lot that are pretty much the same, right? And it's usually one of those small red tape things. Well, this is city permitted, this is state permitted, and that type of ordeal. But are there any unique challenges that you've come across?
Well, every city and town and county, they all have a unique culture, a unique structure. And so what we try to do as well as we can is to come in and listen. What are the things that really make sense and are needed by the town? What do you guys like to see? How have you worked with wireless in the past? We have experienced some pretty complex permitting processes for very small, teeny little sites that just hang between two power poles. We have a site that hangs on the fiber strand called a strand mount, small cell. And so for things like that, we should be able to kind of move through the system quickly. But there are processes that we are still encountering that are prohibiting us from moving quickly. And so we have some challenges there. But I think there's timing too. So small cell, adding new fiber for small cell, this is a new thing for the cities. It's also a new thing for the wireless carriers. So we're all trying to, move as fast as we can, but also take into account the processes that need to be followed. And some of those processes could probably be pushed aside so that we can get this infrastructure in quicker.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I love that. So let's talk about what you've got on the horizon. What is next for Crown Castle? Yeah,
so Crown Castle, we are dedicated to Denver. We really are. It's in Colorado as a whole. We have about 900 new sites, small cells, that are being they're at some level in the permitting phase, if not under construction at this point, within kind of Denver proper and then some of the surrounding communities. So we've got all of those sites, and along with those sites, there's about 140 new miles of fiber. Ooh. So we're installing new fiber that supports that small cell system, but that fiber is also going to be available for enterprise use. Schools, hospitals, businesses, whoever needs to use that fiber will be able to provide that.
Now, when you say new fiber, are you saying that it's a new place that we're putting fiber, or is this a new type of fiber?
No. So sorry, that might have been confusing. So we're adding new fiber cables that are feeding this new small cell system that we're putting in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's new fiber, and that fiber is being used for the small cell, but it's also that we can take pieces or strands of that fiber and actually feed them out to the local businesses or schools or hospitals.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and we love how dedicated you are. Again, that's 900 new sites that are in one phase or another of this small cell structure.
Yeah, and by this time next year, Lord willing, we'll have them all up and on air, and the end user will be experiencing a much faster, better system.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Where can I learn more about Crown Castle?
Well, it's cliche, but we've got a website.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's a crazy thing. crowncastle.com has a lot of information. We are dedicated to making sure that our site is up to date on the builds that we're doing right now.
Okay.
But also there's a community relations tab in our website where anybody can go to learn about wireless. We have a Wireless 101 video. And YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. The Vail build has a YouTube sort of commercial. It's about a 5-minute video. So if you want to see that, it's really well done. We had it professionally done, so it's nice. So our YouTube channel has a lot of kind of Wireless 101. If I see something being built in front of my house, hopefully we're not building it right in front of your window. We're a little bit off to the side or whatever. We're trying to use the infrastructure that's already there, Excel infrastructure, a light pole, or if we put something up, we're going to make it look like the light pole down the street. You have questions. What is this thing going in? crowncastle.com has a lot of good third-party information. It's not all just from us telling you how great it is. There's objective information in there about that site.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Scott. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
Best of luck to you in the award ceremony on December 3rd at the Cable Center from 11 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Sign up for that event at cobrt.com/events. Check out the radio page at cobrt.com/radio-podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. Thank you so much, Scott.
Yeah,
Have
you're
a wonderful
welcome.
day.
Yeah, thanks. I enjoyed it.